if we're supposed to touch the world, what does that look like? Does that just mean we touch the world that we're operating in? Does that mean Wilmington? Does that mean America? Does that mean overseas? And I think that the church is saying it's all of those things. We're in this world of Wilmington, of New Hanover County, and this is a lot of people's world. But we also want to have a broader effect. We want to have missions out in India. We want to be involved in more things outside of our borders. That is very helpful because you can't just say, let's do what we're comfortable with.
The very first time I went to Christ Community was surely sometime in 2002 because we had moved to Wilmington and we knew Paul and Nancy because of Young Life. Christ Community felt like an extension of our family. I owe a great debt of gratitude to Christ Community because we actually went from Christ Community to seminary. I think about that with some regularity, that Christ Community's investment in me and investment in our family has enabled us to carry forward and continue proclaiming what was proclaimed to us.
I got started, 2000, to go to Nigeria with a college mission trip. I never really thought that God could use somebody like me. But we went over there, and I grew up on a farm. I went out and worked with cows with these guys for a week and thought, I can do this. Like, I get it. I get what we're doing here. That's where it started, and I really saw God's heart for people who are very different than us and what it means to be lost and without hope. The thing I'm passionate about Christ Community in particular is that we're willing to do the hard things. They're willing to say, we'll invest in the Middle East. We'll invest in India. We'll invest in reaching these orphans where it's very hard to reach that group, in Romania. And we've seen incredible success, but it's not about the success. It's about doing the thing we're called to do. And then we think about local missions. We want things that do kind of mercy and justice and show the gospel. So think of it like twin rails of the gospel. And you've got to have both. If you're going to tell someone about Christ, you've got to also show you love them. And so I think our membership is intentional about reaching the world wherever they're at.
The Great Commission Jesus said to us, right? He said, go into the world and make disciples of all nations. Even though I'm originally from Ghana, now I'm an assistant professor in UNCW, right? God opened the door. We all, through our little effort, are able to literally impact the world in our little corner that we find ourselves. So our church being having that vision and also creating the avenue for it is amazing, yeah. And I'm glad to be a part of it.
It's a little hard to believe that we're here. I was 10 when this started, now I'm 30, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm 30. I can't believe the church is 20 years old.
Paul talks often about the idea of a long obedience in the same direction. And when I think of 20 years of impact, again, in Wilmington, in the world, it's amazing. The generation, the families that have gone through.
Paul and Nancy and us grew our children up together, along with a big group that are close friends. I feel like I've grown up with a lot of people here, spiritually.
20 years is a long time, but also it's just starting. So I would just encourage and say, keep going. You never know what the Lord's going to do.
God really honored those that planted this church's desire to teach and preach the word. Even when we have things that are hard and things that seem like they could tear a church apart, I really give credit to the leadership. They seek the Lord before they make any decision.
Paul has always taken the gospel seriously. I mean, that is a faithful man, that he has been there day in and day out. And being a pastor is not easy. The fact that the church has continued to grow and flourish, I think, is a testament to obviously the Lord's faithfulness and also to the Phillips.
Being part of a pastor's family is a pretty involved identity piece. Since the beginning of the church, I would say that I could see some changes in my dad. He's definitely got more white hair than he used to. I would also say that nowadays, he's more certain that he's made the right decision than he was 20 years ago. God has provided a lot of signposts along the road going, hey, you're going the right way. To start a church and then be still part of that same church 20 years later there's 20 years of that identity. It set, I think, a different trajectory for my life. At least for me, there's no way you can escape that because you're always going to come back home. This is always going to be home church.